What is up, LAFB fans? We start this episode with our sponsorship with MyBookie. This year, Turkey Day at MyBookie gives you plenty of reasons to be thankful, starting with a $250 risk-free bet on Thursday afternoon when the Dallas Cowboys play the Las Vegas Raiders. Bet the spread between the Raiders and Cowboys at MyBookie. When you win, you win. And if you don't, MyBookie will refund you up to $250. Simply put, you can't lose this bet. And that's what I call no risk, all gravy, football fans. Before you get your wager in, set yourself up for success by doubling your first deposit when using promo code LAFB at MyBookie. That's promo code LAFB at MyBookie to double your initial deposit all the way up to $1,000. So you won't need to break the wishbone to be the one to come out ahead. Feast risk-free on Turkey Day with MyBookie, and make sure to stick around for seconds as they gear up for what should be a fun Black Friday of odds boosts that will have your belly and your pockets completely full. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime at MyBookie. What is up, and welcome to a very special edition of the Bruin Bible. This is Will Decker coming to you after a monster victory. UCLA was able to pull off against hated rival USC in the Coliseum on Saturday, a 62-33 thumping. I am joined today by the 247Sports Bruin Report Iron Mike Regalado, a frequent guest on the show, and my main man Jamal Madney from the LA Football Network. He just wrote a phenomenal piece on this UCLA win over USC. Please check it out when you get a moment. Fellas, how are we doing today?
All right, thank you.
Good. Great to see you, Will.
We got a bunch of performances to talk about, a lot of big name, putting up huge numbers, things of that nature, as well as what this means for the rest of the season. But the first thing we've got to start about is our guy, Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly needed this win as bad as anything coming into this game. Had not beaten USC since his inaugural year in 2018. Gets it to 7 wins, beats USC. I want to ask, if they fall to Cal this weekend and maybe lose in the bowl game, is this singular victory enough to keep UCLA with Chip Kelly in the near future? Mike, I'm going to start with you.
I don't think so. I've argued for the progress that he's made. It was interesting how a lot of people, especially on social media, that was probably my first mistake, how the people were saying that these weren't signature wins, which they're not wrong. But, last 3 seasons, people have been saying, UCLA can't even get any wins. They can't even beat bad teams. Well, now they're beating bad teams. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They massacred an absolutely horrible USC team. And that should say something. They are doing what they're supposed to do. But if you can't get over that hump, and it is year 4, and I understand a lot of people, their arguments, they should be a lot farther along right now. Like this season should be we should have seen what's happening now in season 2 and 3. But it's here where we are now. He's still playing for his job. If they lose to Cal, I don't think it's there's going to be much Chip Kelly in Westwood after that.
That makes complete sense. I mean, Cal is a team that's 4-6 right now. Would be tough to keep his job. Jamal, do you think that was enough for you to keep Chip Kelly at the helm moving forward for UCLA?
Will, what's interesting is that assuming I'll sort of frame this a different way. They're sitting on 7 wins. If they can beat Cal and get the bowl game, that would only be their 5th 9-win season in the last 23 years. Wow. And so when you talk about the 1 year Durrell had in 2005, when they had a number of different fourth quarter comebacks, that could have been a 6-6 team that ended up being 10-2. And then when you look at Mora's 3 years of success of 9 and 10 wins, but when you factor in the fact that SC was on sanctions and they really had this artificial bubble and getting access to guys they normally wouldn't, this is actually this potentially could be one of the most successful years in UCLA football history, the last quarter century. And so when you really look at it from that standpoint, and the fact that this is sort of his year 3, where you really judge a coach, last year being kind of a COVID year, you're seeing the significant jump take place. And so to abandon ship now without actually seeing the ceiling, I think would be really problematic for UCLA, especially when you consider the landscape of what else is out there. I don't believe that there's definitively a better coach on the market that is in UCLA's scope, that's in UCLA's budget, that is significantly better than Chip.
I think that's a fair argument. And like you said, 9 wins is something that's been very tough to come about in Westwood from a football standpoint. I think even if you get to 8 wins, we could say that there's, a case that he should stay. For me personally, I think this was the game that he needed to win more than anything. Crosstown rival. You got to throw out the fact that SC had a terrible defense or anything like that. Win, I think you keep the job. Lose, I think he would have lost it. I think he would have been fired had Jackson Dart, a true freshman quarterback, came in there and beat UCLA to an interim head coach in Dante Williams. I mean, Chip got the job done. He got 7 wins. I mean, Mike, coming into this year, I know you did one of my first shows of the season. We said 7 wins. That would be a success for Chip Kelly, and he keeps the job. I'm kind of following the same line that we did with the predictions. I think Chip Kelly getting this win solidifies him as UCLA's coach. And Jamal made an interesting point. There's a lot of coaching positions, maybe more high-profile coaching positions in one offseason than I can ever remember. You've got LSU, you've got Florida, you've got USC, all looking for, their next guy in charge. Those are 3 of the top 10 programs in the country, maybe. So I think for me personally, I think we got to ride with Chip. We've finally seen what could potentially happen there in Westwood with him kind of getting some guys around him. And I think we got to start this thing off when it comes to individual players with the guy who may have solidified his legacy at UCLA, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, gentlemen. Started off the game. His first 2 passes, both intercepted. We're going, oh my gosh, here comes DTR again. It's going to be another long afternoon, gentlemen. 16 of 20 the rest of the game, 349 yards passing, 4 touchdowns through the air, rushed for 11 carries, 46 yards, and added 2 scores on the ground. Not to mention pulled a little Terrell Owens with the autograph signature in the end zone. Jamal, where does this rank in the all-time performances for UCLA? Because this is in a rivalry game. He did this.
Yeah, Will, for me, this is top 5 of the 21st century for UCLA. I've got Maurice Jones-Drew had 322 and 5 touchdowns back in 2004 with Washington. Drew Olson had 510 yards, 5 touchdowns that magical 2005 season. Then you throw in DTR 2 years ago against Washington State. And then, of course, the great comeback by Josh Rosen against Texas A&M. And this one is right there with that. And you could argue probably the greatest one of all, given that it was against the crosstown rival. And it was just everything that was great about DTR. The long ball was there. He was just so smooth with his release after the first 2 throws. He was superhuman on the ground. He sort of out USC'd USC, between the hurdling, between the autographs, as the kids would say, he was dripping swagger. He did it his way, 6 touchdowns. It was electric. Him posing with, for the band at the end there. I mean, it was just everything that was Hollywood about this city. And, this city is built on superstars, and that was certainly a superstar performance.
Mike, take it away. I mean, you were up in the press box for this. What was the kind of going on in there after the second interception in the first quarter?
I have never seen this on a stat chart when they list the QB rating. After those 2 interceptions, he was minus 200. I was like, what? Am I reading this right? And then, as you said, he went 16 out of 18 the next
16 to 20. The next 20 passes for the rest of the game.
And 4 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, and that thing just kept going up. It went from negative 200 to 255 at one point. I thought it was. I was like, that's a swing. That is a crazy swing. But yeah, it was just an epic performance. And I think UCLA needed, for the rivalry, needed a game like this to combat the 50-0. And people forget, USC fans talk about 50-0. Well, that was against a really bad UCLA team. And this one too, it was against a really bad USC team. And either side would hope to trounce their arch rival in a way. But this one was more memorable, I believe, for UCLA fans just because of everything that happened. The autograph, the hurdle, Casimir Allen getting 2 bombs and a kick return for 100 yards. Ethan Fernia, after the year he has, getting that run, which should have been stuffed, and he just makes a smart move, cuts to the left, and boom, he's gone. There were just so many explosive plays that you can pick from this. In all honesty, I have forgotten the 50-0 and what happened in there. I just remember the score and the surrender white uniforms. But this is just memorable because they made memories, of it, and they made these memories that are going to stick to it. It's like, oh, remember 62-33? Oh yeah, the hurdle, the hat, everything. So it was just a very, very Hollywood. They kind of flipped the tables on USC being the Hollywood team, and just Bruins came out with with an Academy Award performance, and they got awards for it. DTR was the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week. Quentin Lake got the Reese's Bowl Defensive Player of the Week. I think Kirk Herbstreit had him in his top 4 of the best performances of the weekend. So yeah, definitely Hollywood, definitely getting the awards. It was crazy. You kind of go back and go, did that happen?
Man, it was a phenomenal game, and we will get to Kaz Allen in a second. I know I've got some stories about Jamal making a little pregame prediction in the parking lot, tailgating that. Man, I am trusting him with my Powerball selections in the future when it comes to that. But this performance it's got to be up there. It had everything you look for. And to do it in a town like LA, where stardom reigns supreme, just signing autographs in the end zone. The hurdle was the number 1 play on SportsCenter that night. One of the cleanest hurdles you'll ever see in a game. And just that we got the full DTR experience that day. And it had its downs. It had its incredibly high highs. And there's moments, the second deep ball he threw to Kaz Allen, that is one of the prettiest passes you'll ever see downfield. And it shows you why we've been so high on this kid. It's when you see a good version of DTR, you go, this kid's ceiling is a first-round draft pick as an NFL prospect. It's just the inconsistencies trying to balance it out. And Jamal, I do want to add one player to that best of all time performance for UCLA. It's been a couple years, but what Joshua Kelly did to USC in 2018,
for sure.
It was to the point where USC knew the ball was going to him. 40 carries, 289 yards on the ground, and 2 touchdowns against SC. That is all time right there in a win when UCLA had Wilton Spade at quarterback, who was less than reliable. Mike, you know what I'm talking about on that one. But man, we got to throw Joshua Kelly's name in there. The next guy is Kaz Allen we got to bring up. And we're in the parking lot. It's me, Ryan, Jamal, the whole LA Football Network kind of talking about predictions. I went with Charbonnet. I'm like, Charbonnet's going to have a big game, and he did. To his credit, we're going to get to him too. And Ryan was like, Dulcich is my guy. I think Dulcich is going to explode. Jamal, for his money, goes pregame. This is about an hour and a half before it starts. He goes, Kaz Allen is going to be the difference maker in this game. Mark my words. And difference maker is an understatement because this man, 3 catches, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think he made the biggest play in the game. USC was getting some momentum. You should have seen the crowd after that Gary Bryant touchdown. And all Kaz Allen does is take a 100-yard kickoff back to the house. Mike, give me your thoughts on our boy Kaz Allen balling out for the Bruins.
It's just incredible, especially considering the hype that came in. He had his very first carry in the very first Chip Kelly UCLA game was a run for 74 yards, I believe, a touchdown run for 74 yards. Since then, kind of disappeared, buried him in the depth chart on the bench. Injuries, but sprinkle of time here and there. And moving him to receiver, helped to get him a little bit more time. And yeah, just you're kind of shocked, but you're kind of not, because if you know Kaz Allen, you know his speed. It's not a shock that he was able to get out that far and then get a little bit of separation, especially on that first one. He just that ball was lofted perfectly. That was a great pass too, both of them, like you said. And he was just right there where the ball was supposed to be, and he made the play. He executed, and then that run, you can kind of tell he was just kind of like going in. There was just like a hole from what I could see up top, and then kind of gets a few key blocks and then cuts to the outside. I'm like, oh, he's gone. Oh, he's gone, and he's gone. It was just a really good performance, especially in a rivalry game, for Kaz Allen to have this memorable of a game. So yeah, no, it was big for him.
Jamal, give me the lowdown on your man. What did Kaz Allen do that blew you away on Saturday?
Well, it was just the game-breaking ability, and just with such ease, he was sort of ripping through the SC secondary. I mean, the first touchdown, the 45-yarder, I mean, he just sort of it was an up and in. He just totally burned the secondary. DTR did a great job kind of throwing him open on the back shoulder there and letting him stroll in. And the second touchdown was just a deep post, and he just sort of, in stride, looked like the track star that he was. And then the third touch goes, officially 100, probably unofficially it was 103. And I think that it was such a key moment in the game, because there was a 9-play stretch there where momentum changed 4 different times. You were looking at UCLA up 35-20, methodically going down the field. Looks like it's going to be a 3-score game. Looks like UCLA's got everything under control. This is going to be a slow bleed for SC. All of a sudden, DTR takes a sack. Missed field goal. SC comes down back-to-back. Gary Bryant Jr. Passes, touchdown. Crowd's going crazy. And then that's when Kaz, rips through that hole, kind of fakes inside, goes to the outside. Order is restored with that 16-point lead. And then the defense could come back and get that pick in the end zone. And effectively, that was the ball game. That 9 plays could have gone a myriad of different ways. And Kaz Allen made the single greatest contribution to the game, 278 total yards. And I think this could be the beginning for Kaz Allen and the discovery for Chip Kelly and how to use Kaz Allen. I think that we've seen glimpses of him as a Swiss Army knife in this offense, but I think that he can potentially be that Percy Harvin in that great Florida offense, the DeAnthony Thomas in Chip's great offense with Oregon. I think he can sort of be used in the backfield and out of, as a receiver in a very effective way next year. And this could be that springboard for him.
And I think this is one of the frustrating things I've had about a Chip Kelly offense this year. And how many times have fans complained about Chip Kelly's offense in the past? Not a lot. This guy is an offensive genius, in other words. But Kaz Allen, it was like every time this guy touched the ball in a game, we saw the LSU catch deep on the sideline. It was like a 40-yard gain that kind of got the offense going. We saw the Hawaii game, first game of the season, makes high points of catch, runs into the end zone from about 45 yards. You saw the flashes, and it's like every time this guy touches the ball, something good happens. I don't know why we're not giving it to him more. And, I mean, the same goes for our guy, Greg Dulcich. I mean, 2 catches on Saturday, 75 yards. It was a 38 and a 37-yarder. Call me crazy. Maybe you should give him the ball a little bit more. I mean, everything was rolling right, but those 2 guys, I just need a little bit more passing when you have explosive guys like that. And I think it's going to set up Kaz Allen for some big years coming up in Westwood. He, outside of DTR, in my opinion, is the player of the game. But the most underrated performance of the week, in my opinion, goes to Zach Charbonnet. And let me break down the numbers. Any other time in a rivalry game this happens, if you take out a DTR, a Kaz Allen, this guy's the star of the show. 28 carries, 167 yards with Britton Brown not playing, and a touchdown. And I went back and watched some of the film. I had missed this a little bit this year. He is an elite pass blocker too, and he is going to be so good at the next level. I think he kind of solidified himself as a top 3-round pick. Jamal, how lucky are Bruins fans to have Zach Charbonnet in their backfield this year?
I mean, he's been instrumental, and really after that Hawaii game, I think one of the many reasons that I think Chip had to really reorient his thinking around who the centerpiece of the offense was going to be. Obviously, you talked about Kaz and Dulcich and the opportunity to get the ball more, but he's so special. He showed you so much so early that he's an elite running back. There's parts of him that remind me of Marshawn Lynch. There's parts of him that remind me of a young Jerome Bettis. There's so much that he sort of brings to the table. This was a career high 167. I mean, it was a season high at UCLA. He never ran for that much against Michigan. He was absolutely clutch, especially in the second half, fourth quarter to salt that game away. And he really was that security blanket for the Bruin offense that allowed DTR to go deep. You know, when you get 5 and 6 and 7 yards on first down, that really sort of relaxes you as a passer. And that DTR was relaxed because he knew that he had third and short in his back pocket. So many times this year, UCLA has been in second and long, third and long situations. That's not where they want to be. And I think why the plethora of the offense was able to sort of open up was really because Zach Charbonnet was able to set the tone in the line of scrimmage. He's really been the unsung MVP of the whole season.
And Mike, I know because I saw him at Michigan, but I talked to you preseason. I'm going, how good is this Charbonnet kid? Because you'd been to spring practices and you go, Will, he's going to be an absolute stud out there in the football field this season. Charbonnet, how good is he at UCLA? And do you think he had maybe a better impact than that of Joshua Kelly or Demetric Felton, for all that matter? Because those guys are both in the NFL as well. It's a long list of great running backs that have come out of UCLA in recent years.
Yeah, and just seeing how he could perform just in practice, it was just salivating, telling people how good this player was going to be, how they haven't had someone like this since Jonathan Franklin or Maurice Jones-Drew. And no disrespect to Joshua Kelly, but Joshua Kelly was more of a speedster. Obviously, as you can see, you know, at the beginning of the season, I joked with you, we have to come up with a new stat line, yards after contact, because he just bounces off of people. He rips out of tackles. He spins out of tackles. And we saw it time and time again on Saturday, especially late. I think it was maybe the third to last possession where they were just handing the ball off to Charbonnet and boom. Oh, okay. 11 yards. Boom. 13 yards. Okay. I was like, they really don't have to worry about pacing themselves down the field, or at least getting close enough to score, because Zach Charbonnet is just giving them yards. You know, it's like, here, take these yards. USC's not doing anything with them. So just to have like this bulldozer of a guy who has not only vision, he has speed, he has great center of gravity, balance, and it's just, you just look at him, it's like, this is an NFL guy. Yeah, like enjoy him this year, UCLA fans, because he's NFL talent. So, and I honestly would not be surprised if he decides to jump to the NFL after this. I mean, why would you not? Kid has talent, and so I'm jealous on that aspect. But just to have someone who is consistent too, and he had a few games where he didn't do everything that everything just didn't click, and I think it was mostly because of an overall collective offensive glitch or whatnot. But he's pretty much consistent and guaranteed to get yards, and he did it without Britton Brown, who was out with an injury. And because, when Brown's in, he gets a rest. Brown is going to be, plowing through guys as well. He did this, all on his own. Obviously, Dorian did, help in the run game. But yeah, he took it upon himself. And the fact that you said he had his season high against USC, and that is what not a lot of people are talking about. There are just other good explosive plays that nobody's talking about. Charbonnet getting 167 yards.
167. When's the last time that is the third best player on the field that someone rushes for that much?
Exactly.
That's just like unbelievable.
Yeah, and getting 1,000 for the season in that game too. So it's like, like that flew under the radar for everybody, and that just tells you not just how good he was, but how great this victory was collectively.
And I want to make a proclamation. I think Charbonnet, he's probably going to go pro. But if there's any chance he comes back, he's a top 5 Heisman candidate for me next year. Heisman.
Oh, yeah.
And for me personally, when you just watch this guy run the ball, there's a ferocity. Like it's like the defense is normally the team that attacks a rusher like that. He's the guy that's attacking them. And they want no part of it. He is one of the strongest running backs I've ever seen. The Bettis comparison, Jamal, was spot on because, boy, he is running through 3 or 4 guys before he's getting tackled. And the fact he can kick it outside, too, and beat them that way, it's almost like you've drawn up an unfair advantage with a running back. Charbonnet is a stud. We got to get to our last 2 guys, and we can do it hand in hand. And these guys had phenomenal games, too. We talked about Quentin Lake. He was the defensive player of the week throughout college football. Had an awesome game. And for my money, the most underrated wide receiver that I have covered in my time as someone who's watched the Pac-12, Kyle Phillips just makes big play after big play after big play. And we need to talk about this kid more because he is phenomenal. 6 catches, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mike, give me your impressions on Phillips and Quentin Lake.
Just going back to last week against Colorado, Kyle Phillips got rocked a couple times off of catches. I remember this one where the ball was a little off, so he had to stretch for it, which took him off balance. He went to the side and he crashed into a guy, spun around, hit the ground, and he just popped up and was like, "All right, let's do it again." He's one of the. He's not exactly a huge human being.
No, not at all.
But also that I think is to his advantage too, because he's also a speedster. But he can also just make some really great grabs. He has, great vision. He can cut back, with the best of them. And it's just with this run heavy offense, you don't get to, a lot of the spotlight isn't put on the receivers, or there hasn't actually been much to put on the receivers. Like Dulcich, has he disappeared? What's going on with him? Chase Cota, wondering what was going on with him. Yeah. He wasn't targeted as much as I thought he would be this year. But Kyle Phillips just, whenever his number was called, he executed. He nailed his plays, and it's kind of like a quiet success, but it's still there. Quentin Lake too, just he's been playing some really good ball lately, and that one, I kind of knew it when he had that first interception where he tipped it to himself and caught it, and he just kind of came up with like a swagger. I'm like, oh, he's switched on. He's good for this game. And they helped, it wasn't the greatest pass defense performance, but they did a really good job, containing USC with that spread offense and the arm of Jackson Dart. So it, like I said, it wasn't the greatest, but they did enough to have to help out in this beatdown.
Jamal, give me your impressions of these guys. I think,
Will, this is what also makes this game so historic. I mean, you had 4 guys with a career day, between DTR, Charbonnet, Kaz Allen, and Phillips. 4 guys can point to this game and say, hey, that might have been the best game I ever played in a Bruin uniform. And Phillips is absolutely phenomenal. He's just such an elite route runner and so smart. The first touchdown, that 23-yard, post corner that he ran on 3rd down, DTR seems to always look to Phillips first. It almost feels like DTR is like, Phillips, go deep or run. And that first touchdown was just such a beautiful route, and he finished it into the end zone. And then that second touchdown might be the hardest down in distance in football. When you're at a 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 from the 10-yard line, there's not a lot of space. You need that precision. You need that elite route runner. He comes across the middle, catches it, finishes it into the end zone, absorbs the contact. He's absolutely phenomenal and the ultimate safety blanket of the team. I will say that Quentin Lake was, as you said, kind of the unsung hero of this game. But I think there was a really key moment in this game that isn't talked about a lot, and that was really the first half of the first quarter, led by Quentin Lake and that defense. With USC kind of marching the opening drive down, got a field goal, it was 3-0. DTR goes back-to-back picks. The defense did an outstanding job, first with that Quentin Lake interception, and then second on a straight hold of USC to keep the game 3-0 before DTR got his sea legs under him. If SC turns around, gets 10 points on those two possessions, or gets 14 points on those two possessions, that's a 13-0 game. That's a 17-0 game. We could be having a completely different conversation today with potentially DTR pressing, more mistakes coming, and SC getting the opportunity to run the ball more and take more off of Jackson Dart's plate in his first career start. And so Quentin Lake's performance in the first half of that first quarter with the interception as well as the great coverage that allowed UCLA to blitz but still be able to have really good secondary play set this team up for success. And so Quentin Lake deserves to get just as much love as the love that's going around with everybody else.
And you made some phenomenal points on Quentin Lake. He had the first interception of last year's game, too, against Keaton Slovis. Another beautiful pick. High pointed the football in the air, came down with it on a nice pass towards the left sideline. Quentin Lake's a gamer, man. He just makes big plays, just like Kyle Phillips does for that matter. Big plays in big games. And I want to go back to Phillips as well. Is there a case he could be maybe team MVP this year? Because you look at all the big moments this year, the LSU game where he got out of Elias Ricks. That guy's going to be a first-round pick in the NFL and took it to the house for a touchdown, kind of the game-sealing play for UCLA. You look at the Stanford game. It's getting really close. Tanner McKee is picking apart this defense. It's a tie game. Kyle Phillips catches a 75-yard touchdown pass over the middle to kind of give UCLA back that hype. And then the week before, Colorado, we were losing 17-7 against Colorado at halftime. Phillips goes, we're not losing today. 82-yard punt return, makes a big play, gets 2 more touchdowns. What more do you want from this guy? I just hope Bruins fans appreciate what we're getting from Kyle Phillips, because this guy's about to lead the team in catches for a 3rd straight year, is an absolute baller. And I think, like Ryan Dyrud said, our founder at LAFB, he's going to make an NFL team very happy, because this is the type of guy, the Wes Welker, the smaller slot receiver that just continually makes big plays on 3rd down and continues to move the chains. Guys, this has been an awesome podcast so far. I just got one more question for you guys. We got Cal game and then we got a bowl game. The momentum's with us right now. We beat USC, but if you go back to how we beat LSU earlier in the year, we dropped the next game to Fresno State. We beat Stanford. We get crushed the next week. It's a little bit of a hit or miss for this team. Do we finish the year 2-0 and get to 9 wins? Are you thinking 8-4 heading into the bowl game and maybe with a loss? What do you think, Jamal?
So, Will, I had this team at 8-4 at the beginning of the year. I've been hovering between 8-4 and 9-3 the whole year. I think this is an interesting game against Cal. I like UCLA to prevail with the momentum, the confidence that they have, but this is a trap game. UCLA's won, 6 times against SC since 98. The 18 game was the last game of the season, but the 4 games prior to that, when they had a game the week after SC, they've only been 1-3. There's sort of a tendency in UCLA land to sort of judge the barometer of success in a season as just being able to beat SC, and the foot tends to come off the gas. And I think with the momentum that's been built here and the play of guys and the leadership of guys like Phillips, I really like UCLA to beat Cal. Cal's going to come in a desperate team. For as great as UCLA has been and the bragging rights that they've had over the last 72 hours, in beating their rival in their building by 29 points, Cal has sort of one up UCLA because they beat their rival in their building by 30 points. And so Cal comes in 4-6, but with the opportunity with 2 wins to get to bowl eligibility. So they're going to be a desperate team, but I think Chip's going to have them wired the right way and play with the right intensity. I think they're going to get Cal. They're going to get to 8-4. And then depending on where things fall in terms of the selection, I have a feeling they're going to go to the Holiday Bowl and potentially play a Wake Forest team, which would be a really nice showcase for this team and a great setup going into next year, and really an opportunity to set up momentum and potentially get to 9-4.
San Diego in December sounds pretty good to me, boys. Mike, what do you think happens for the remainder of the season? This is Chase Garbers as the Cal quarterback. He is the only Pac-12 quarterback that has more starts than DTR heading into this game.
Yeah. I don't really like looking at trends, but trends are there for a reason. As Jamal just said, UCLA kind of has a lull after the USC game, which is interesting that has happened recently because USC usually is the last game of the season. And that's a curse on Notre Dame because of their scheduling with Stanford and USC. But also, Cal has not been good at the Rose Bowl. Since 1983, there have been 19 contests between them, and UCLA has won 15.
Wow.
So, and it's actually kind of the opposite up north. UCLA doesn't have a good track record at Memorial Coliseum. But I think both of them are on a bit of a high. I think UCLA is really using this big win, this big explosive win to propel themselves, especially with, I'm sure they hear the chatter of, was Chip Kelly going to be here or not? What's going to happen? So trying to get those wins, trying to prove everyone wrong, trying to show everyone that the last 3 years it's been a buildup to this, and I completely understand what people are saying is that UCLA has lost to teams with winning records, but they beat teams with losing records. Hey, it's still winning. They're still 7-4. They have a chance to go 8-4, potentially 9-4 in a bowl game. But I also think that whatever bowl it is, those extra weeks will help UCLA to get really rested and healed. Although there are, we're hearing it more and more every offseason now. This person is choosing to opt out of a bowl game because of the potential draft class, So a lot of that factors in, but I think that these guys are going to rally around the recent success. And, like I said, they don't want to show people that they're just another middle of the road team. Which is funny because that's still an improvement over the last 3 seasons. But no, I think they have a pretty good role, and I think they'll be successful in whatever bowl game they get to. But it would be interesting to see. That's the one I've been hearing a lot too. Holiday Bowl against Wake Forest. I was like, ooh, that'd be nice. That'd be a really good test. A team that they're not really accustomed to, a conference they're not accustomed to. So yeah, either way, I think it should be fun. Unless it ends with an L, and then all the talk starts again. So,
well, I love it. Well, if we go to the Holiday Bowl, fellas, beers on me in San Diego. Bruin Bible, we're out. What an episode.